Hi, and welcome to Partners in Progress, a couples podcast about love, life, and well-being in your 20s with me, Elouise.
And me, Sammy.
In this podcast, we'll be discussing topics like relationships, health, well-being, spirituality, and just life. From tips and tricks to failures and falls, all while sharing our story as we try to figure out building and growing a life together in the chaos of modern-day society. We'll be coming to you every Sunday with our shares and invite some guests to share their experiences too. So grab a blanket, a cuppa, and settle in to Partners in Progress. Hello and welcome back to Partners in Progress. And we have some very exciting news.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Do you want to say it?
You can say it.
I can say it. We are now, Callie's going to say it, apparently. She tried to interrupt then. We are now engaged.
Yes, Sammy.
Sorry, I felt like I deserved a woo. There we go. Got two now.
Yeah, Sammy proposed 2 days ago now.
Yes.
It feels like it's been a right whirlwind because obviously we went to the Peak District, then popped home and then popped straight down to Milton Keynes. And I was thrown through the loops with some unexpected surprises. So of course we thought it was only right that this episode we will chat about our engagement.
Everything surrounding it, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited. So I feel like since it was your proposal, you should start us off because I don't think I know too much about like the behind the scenes, like when things started being planned and things.
I'll set the scene for my story. I think it's hard to know. Well, again, I think I knew very early on in our relationship that I would propose to you. I think the question was exactly when. Mm-hmm. So I think there was a period of time where I think it was probably sort of like a bit after we'd moved into the house and around before I started driving, I think was when it was really like, okay, now it feels like it's the right time to start planning this out. So I think it was around then that I was like planning a little bit and just trying to think like, right, how do I want to do this? What do I want to do? Because we'd spoken about it a bit before in terms of like what you would want from a proposal and what you'd want like your ring to look like and things like that. Dropped some very subtle hints of like, this is exactly what I know.
And we'd already decided that you were going to propose first. We agreed on that, didn't we? And that you would be the one to like propose. We'd discussed that as well. We'd also both picked out rings. Yeah, we're not very good at keeping secrets from each other.
We had about like the main sort of proposal parts of the proposal were fairly planned out kind of by both of us in a certain way.
Pretty much.
Not officially, but like from what we've spoken about. Because obviously I wanted it to be something that you'd actually want. I wouldn't want to like do a surprise for the sake of it being surprising and then have it be like nothing that you'd actually want from a proposal in terms of like where or how and all of that sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely think we'd both kind of agreed on what kind of plan would be preferable, I suppose.
Yes. So anyway, back to my setting the scene of August-ish of 2024. That was a time where I was like, I think the initial plan that I kind of had was, okay, maybe like the end of this year, like around Christmas, because it was like some of your family went to be moving house and things, and it just felt like, oh, it might be nice with like all your family and everyone there.
Yeah.
And then I think the plan just kind of shifted because for various reasons, like they went in the new house and it was quite crammed with a lot of other stuff. Like I had my driving test earlier that time and like they were two like back to back quite long drives considering I'd only been driving for a month, like to my family for Christmas and then to yours. And I think I was kind of not nervous about that, but like it was enough on my mind to kind of be planning out all of that and making sure that I was prepared from that side to then chuck this whole other big thing on top of it. Felt like it might be doing a bit much and I didn't want to feel like extra stressed on those drives as well.
No, it's fair.
And it kind of worked out in the end because jumping forward a bit, like where I proposed, it involved going on a walk near where you grew up in Milton Keynes. And I think on the day itself, like you weren't feeling too great, so you weren't up for going for a walk anyway. So after that happened, I was like, okay, maybe that was a sign of some sort that it's not meant to be now.
Universe being like, hold off for a little bit.
And we had so many things last year as well, like with driving and house and new job and all of that sort of stuff. So it felt like, you know what, maybe 2025 will be the year. And I was like, oh, it's a 5-year anniversary as well.
Yeah.
And so many other things that kind of line up nicely. And I was like, I think that would really work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was about November was when the plan shifted, because I won't spoil exactly what it was, but on like the 7th of November, I think it was, I booked something that we did after
Yeah.
the engagement to kind of celebrate. And that was something that really needed to be booked in advance. I was like, if I book it now, then not I'm forced into it, but it gives me a date to
gives you a
stick to,
guide.
and then
Yeah.
everything else can kind of be planned around that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was right after our 5-year anniversary. And I was like, well, we'll probably be doing stuff around then anyway. But if I just make sure that we keep these days clear,
Yeah.
then that will give us like that's kind of already planned out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the first step. And then I spoke to quite a lot of your family between then and actually proposing, trying to figure out some of the logistics side of things. I think your sister was the one I spoke to the most.
Of course, she had asked for as much before anyway.
Oh yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to just turn around and propose without having said anything to her. But she was also good to kind of bounce ideas off of, and she was definitely helpful with saying even more things from your side that you might want that I hadn't necessarily considered or just didn't know because we hadn't talked about it. So that helped kind of iron out more of the details, and she was very helpful with the plans and stuff like that. So yes, I think she was the first person I told, and then there were some of your friends and things like that as well. So yeah, that was the first. And then as it kind of went on, I told, like, I think it was like last month, I told my family, and then we went up to see your family, and I got your parents' blessing and everything like that. So
always good.
yes, yeah. I kind of got your blessing, not your blessing, got their blessing from everyone I spoke to as well.
Yeah.
No one I mentioned it to was like, this is a horrible idea. So
Of course.
always a good sign. But yeah, that's kind of the main parts of planning it. Because I think around that, I also like booked a hotel for another part. And then when we started planning out what else we wanted to do around our anniversary, like the Peak District, I really steered it towards the weekend of doing stuff and then like leaving the next week free to do what I'd planned. So that was what I had to make sure of. I was like, oh, the weekend should be really good for this. No specific reason, but we should definitely do the weekend.
I didn't clock that bit at all. I was just made most sense, didn't it really?
Yeah, which was quite nice that it wasn't like the other way around of like, oh, we should just book off a bunch of random days for this.
Yeah.
So yes, but I mean, that's kind of most of the planning side of it. So,
and I think that's when I like, because again, we're not secret keepers, so
no, it was very
we
hard.
kind of both knew that like it wouldn't be like a surprise as such.
Yeah.
Which I think it's not like I didn't really feel like we needed it to be a surprise because we've done everything together, like
literally, yeah.
The last 5 years we've literally been building everything together, every major decision, every tiny decision, like from, oh, should we buy a house, to, oh, should I order this clothing item off Vinted?
I thought you were going to say the house was a tiny decision for a minute. I was like, but no, I think that's exactly true. And it is hard to kind of keep everything, and also like getting us to the like Milton Keynes and things like that. It's hard to get you there without it being
and I don't think that's what I'm saying is like I don't think you needed to, like it was like I didn't know exactly what you were going to say, and I didn't 100% know, but like I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
Especially like I think that was what I was saying is like when I first clocked on was when you randomly thought it would be a good idea to go to Milton Keynes after our holiday, because we are both homebodies and we're both chill people. So when you suggested back-to-back holidays, I was like, why? Why did you want to do that?
I know. I think that was a bit that was the hardest sell, and I was like, I had to do it because you had to get time off work anyway. Because my original plan with those dates was like, oh, hopefully you won't be working. So I think around then those days tended to be free. But then things kind of changed, and like either way, that's the logistics part. I kind of flubbed a bit, but also it would be a bit hard on the day to just turn around and be like, right, we get up at 9, we're going driving again, and be like, what?
Yeah,
aren't
that
you
would be
working
good for
today?
the nervous system.
Yeah. So no, but again, I was like, I had to say it, and I thought, well, the surprise isn't the most important part. It's more just the act of doing it.
Yeah, but yeah, like I wasn't 100% sure, and I think I've said to you how I kind of thought what you might do is what's the phrase, like a red herring, like
Red herring, yeah.
throw a red herring into the mix by getting me to go to Milton Keynes and getting me to go on the walk, but then not actually proposing there and then doing it because we're due to go to Milton Keynes again in April. So I kind of was like, that's a possibility. So I wasn't like super sure that it was going to happen, but I'd definitely been having like conversations with people. And it's so funny because obviously the people that I spoke to about it were people that knew about it.
Yeah, pretty much
Primarily.
all of
them. And so they kind of threw me off a little bit as well because like my sister, when I had said, oh, we're weirdly coming to Milton Keynes, I think he's gonna propose, she literally did this whole, and it's fair play to her because she did this whole thing of like, well, that means he's probably, that's news to me, unless he's gone rogue from the plan and all this stuff. And I was like, oh,
That's very funny.
Oh,
I didn't
like
realise you'd done that.
yeah, I was like, oh, maybe it's not then. And then, as you know, Kirsty was here like a couple weekends ago, and I was like, I think he's going to do it here when we go to Milton Keynes. And then she literally said like, well, don't get your hopes up. And I was like, and that threw me off as well because I thought like either she knew that it was going to happen and was trying to throw me off the scent, or she knew it wasn't going to be this time because there's a future plan.
Yeah.
So that threw me off as well. But yeah, like I feel like I was pretty sure that was going to happen, which I really liked. Like I liked knowing. Like I know it's not traditional, but then we're not really traditional.
No.
And I was just excited, you know. But I was also like, yeah, I wasn't sure it was going to be this specifically like this week. I knew it was probably going to be like either this time or in April.
Yeah, at least it wasn't 100%. I guess.
No,
It's like,
and so I was kind of like, when you're rushing me out in the morning as well, I was like, why are we heading off so early? I am sleepy.
Yeah.
And then what was even funnier is like we had this whole plan of what we were going to do in Milton Keynes, in terms of, you know, we were going to go on a walk, then we were going to go to my nan and grandpa's, we were going to chill there for a few hours until my sister finished work, and then we were going to go to theirs for like the evening and maybe go out for dinner.
Yeah, all quite a relaxed day for the most part, like after getting into Milton Keynes. However,
which was not the case. So I guess now is the time to tell the actual proposal story.
Yes. So, picture this. No. So yeah, we pulled into the car park near Willen Lake, which is near-ish to where you used to live.
Well, I lived in Willen when I was a baby, which is connected to Willen Lake. And I also, you know, I very much did grow up there. And I worked there for several years as well.
Yeah,
so
when we were
Willen
together
Lake
as well. So
so Willen Lake is like a quite a popular spot in Milton Keynes. But it was very close to where I lived, and there's this kind of walk that connects you to Ouzel River, which I always call my river, because it's literally like I grew up with it on my doorstep, and would go on a walk there every day, for as long as I can remember. Like I've done it like probably decades of walking this walk, you know.
That's very cool.
So it was really nice to kind of like walk through there. So I started at Willen Lake and walked through to the river, and I was just going on about all my different memories and different like kind of things I have attached to it and stuff, which I think feel like helped you because you're probably getting a bit nervous at that time.
Yeah, I was like, I'm happy to kind of let you talk, and I was like, I didn't respond too much, but I was like listening. But it's like, I think I was mostly just like, because we went. Well, I wasn't 100% sure how far it was either, so I was like, kind of in my head, I was mentally tracing like, right, where are we, and planning out times and things as well.
Yeah, because it was the opposite route that, like, it's the opposite direction I normally come. Like where I lived before, I do Ousel first and then Will and Lake. Like they kind of said we were going in the backwards direction. So
Yeah.
less familiar to you at least.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, I'd lived with you in your more recent place in Milton Keynes for about a month, so I kind of knew the route from that side, but it was just coming at it from the complete other angle that was a bit like, oh, I don't really know how far it is. And I'd looked at it in Google Maps and stuff, and I kind of double checked it with you the day before.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I had a conversation with your dad about when I kind of spoke to him about it, and he was like, "Oh, are you sure you know which secret path it is? Because there's quite a few around." And I was like, "I'm like 99% sure." And he's like, "Well, you've already confirmed that." And I was like, okay. So that planted a seed of doubt in my mind that I needed confirmed. But yeah, and we did end up there, and it was where I thought it was, because I think I'd found the BMX little park or like something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, it must be near there," which it was. So
yeah, I think it's because the other secret passageways were from when I was before like 4 or 5 years old. So I didn't really know them as like the secret passageway for me is like a different place than it is to my family members. Like I know that there are other secret passageways, but like there's no doubt of which one I refer to when I am saying secret passageway.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But I know that in my dad's mind, he does not see it as the secret passageway, or like you said, he sees it as one of them.
Yeah, so I think that's where I was like, I'm really confident of this, but I just wasn't entirely sure, and I didn't want to end up like thinking I was going into the right one when it's not. But again, it's like it didn't really come up on the day, which was good. But yes, so we walked down to there, and we thought we were going on like, well, you thought we were going on like a more longer walk afterwards as well. But then we got into the secret passageway, and that is when I started speaking to you, and just saying how thankful I was for our time together and everything that we've been through, and how I couldn't imagine it without you. And then asked if you would marry me. And I got down on one knee first, which was also up for debate. As when after we were speaking about it, you were like, "Oh, I didn't think you got down on one knee," and I was like, "No, I did."
Yeah. So I'll just explain why, because firstly, like for context, I'm about 5'4", 5'5".
5'5", yeah.
Yeah, and you are 6'3".
Yes.
So you're obviously taller than me.
Just a bit.
Like a head taller than me.
Yeah.
But I was so focused on like your face and just making sure I was listening to you, and then like you brought out like the ring box and stuff. And because it was, like less obvious, like my head wouldn't move too much, because when you're on your knee, you're still quite tall.
Yeah,
you're probably about my height.
I'm shorter than you at that point, but yeah, not by too much. So
no. So I literally was like thinking, I was like, oh, he's not gone down on one knee. That's interesting. But I didn't actually check because I was so focused on like hearing you.
Yeah.
And just listening to you. That I just didn't realise.
Which is very funny.
Yeah. But of course I said like, yes, that of course I will. And we just spent a little bit of time there, kind of just getting excited about like it finally happening. And I put on the beautiful ring, which I had picked out, so it's exactly what I wanted.
Exact specifications, so that's always good.
Exactly. And then we came out the secret passageway and onto the Thinking Hill, which is right by it.
Yes.
And we called our parents, who all knew it was happening.
Yeah, they were all very much waiting by the phone around that time, because they knew roughly when we'd be there as well. So.
I think literally like my parents answered on like the second ring.
Yeah, which is very, very quick for them to be answering.
Literally.
So
yeah, it was really exciting. And then we got to go, obviously, we had planned to go to like my nanny and grandpa's. So we headed off there, and then unexpectedly, Sammy started talking about how time restricted we were and that there's more surprises to come.
Yes. Well, I thought since like I'd kind of predicted it would be fairly obvious when I would be proposing, because of how we'd have to talk about it and stuff like that, I thought, well, I might as well have some element of surprise, even if that comes after the fact of proposing, in terms of what we do to celebrate it. So I think, as you mentioned before, we kind of had a fake plan, I'll call it, of what we were going to do in Milton Keynes, where drive down, go for a nice long walk, go to see your nanny and grandpa, leave sort of at the end of the working day to go to your sister's and stay there, and then just maybe go out for dinner or something like that. But it was all a bit up in the air. The reason for that is because none of that was happening.
No.
One thing I forgot as well is that your sister was also at a parents' evening.
Yeah, so
for the
she
whole
was
day,
she
for the whole
wasn't
night.
even there until like later in the evening. Like she wouldn't be going home, which she found hilarious when she called after
Yes.
I showed her the picture of my ring.
So none of that was happening. And again, I'd kind of got people on board with this to just be like, just say yes to anything she's messaging about. Just be like, answer what you want. Just make it seem like it's
Yeah.
actually happening. Which I think they did, because I don't think you really had too much of an inkling about any of this.
No, I had said to Kirsty that like if you did propose, it'd be nice to go for dinner.
Mm.
And she was very vague about it. She was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be nice." And that was all she said.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, because again, she knew none of that would be happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what did happen is we did go to Nanny and Grampy's. Saw them. They were very excited.
Yeah, my Grampy's exact words were, "Hope you know what you've got yourself in for here."
And that directed at me, so that was very funny.
Yeah.
And
then my nanny said, "Well done" to us
think
both.
it was,
I think she was just kind of like, "Well done."
Just an all-round well done.
Oh,
Me
she's so
proposing,
cute.
you for saying yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a team effort.
Yeah.
But yes, so yeah, they didn't know beforehand. Just like it because of various reasons, I just hadn't told them. But yeah, so they were very excited when we got there. We had a nice time with them, and then around sort of 2ish, I was like, right, we need to be getting going, and that's when the logistics part kicked in. So another part of this is I ended up having to, well, not having to, but I ended up planning out on my phone a whole thing of where we needed to be and what we needed to do, because it was quite a lot in terms of getting from place A to B. So we went over to drive to your sister's house, first of all, where we parked up, and then got a taxi, a very fancy taxi actually.
It was wow fancy.
Both of them were, but yeah, the first one I think was a Tesla Model Y or something, like 23. So it's quite a new one.
It had like a screen with like where other cars and people were. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see
was
that. Yeah, because
insane.
they've got like the built-in camera vision stuff. It's quite cool.
Creepy.
Yeah, but no, they had that, and then the door handles were also fun to figure
we
out.
couldn't get in.
Yeah, I've never used one before, but I think I got the hang of it when I got to my door. It was just when we were trying to get your door open, the guy inside was like opening it, and we were just fiddling around with it, and then we got there eventually. Yes, we got that to the train station in Milton Keynes, and then hopped on a train to London,
which is very surprising because I do not like London.
Not a big London fan.
I'm not a big city girl. I am away from the city kind of girl. So
keep me out
when
of the
you
city.
were like moving up, like saying we were going to London, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think that was the point where you're like, do you know me?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
No, I knew that it would be worth it. But it definitely opened
the possibilities.
Yeah, it opened the possibilities massively, because obviously there's so many like unique experiences and kind of different things that you can do like in London.
Yeah, because I think at first you thought that we were just getting the taxi into the centre of Milton Keynes, because I didn't really want to drive around there.
Are we going shopping?
So yeah, so it's something like that, and then when we went to the train station, we were like, oh, this opens up the possibilities.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, it's not really. There's a lot of other places I'd been happy to drive to, but I think London is my no zone for driving, which I kind of got proved why when we got there. Really. But yes, so then we got in and got a bus, managed to sit right at the front, which is quite nice, down to the theatre district in London. And I think that's kind of when it all started falling into place, really. Whereas we were looking around, I was like, oh, what can you see around here? And then you're like, oh, a few plays, and then The Lion King was one of them you mentioned.
Yeah, there was a few. Like at that point, I kind of assumed that it would be a theatre trip, because like that's one of the few reasons I would go to London is for the theatres, because I'm a drama queen.
Yeah. Not in that sense.
No, but I love drama, and it was a big part of like my studying and stuff before university. Because there were so many different ones, because I'm a bit of a theatre nerd, so like I know quite a few places. There was like Mamma Mia, and there was Lion King, and there was Six, and there was The Play That Goes Wrong, and all of these are like, any of them I'd be happy to walk into.
Yeah, and they're all within like half a mile of each other, really, aren't they? So
they were all like in the surrounding area, and those were just ones I saw, and I know for a fact there'd be more.
Oh yeah, I think I saw even more on the way out than on the way in, and we saw quite a lot on the way in. So Yeah, and then we kind of pulled up at the bus stop and then walked down to the hotel we were staying in for the night, which was the
Very fancy.
the Strand Palace. And your favourite detail of that when we arrived as well.
Yes, there was a person with a top hat job was to open and close the doors for people,
Yeah.
and I've never had that before in my life. He had a top hat on and everything, and it was he just opened the door for us. I was like, oh my gosh!
That's how you know it's fancy.
And an important note here is I was still in my hiking clothes,
Forgot that.
so I was in like a baggy jumper and like thermal leggings, a very like outdoorsy jacket that I wear to work, so it was literally stained with mud. So we were walking into this like palace,
pretty fancy place.
Yeah, and all these like business people were around, and I was just there like, oh, I am underdressed for here.
But no, I mean, one thing you mentioned before we came down, which kind of ended up working in my favor because I didn't need to say it, was you were like, oh, should we bring a nice outfit if we go out for dinner or something? And I was like, that's a really good idea. We should definitely do that. Because I was kind of getting to the point where I was like, I definitely need to say something in regards to this because of
that was definitely because I thought there was a slight chance that we would be that you'd be proposing, and if we wanted to do it, like I definitely didn't expect you to plan
all of this
anything else, but I did expect like, oh, maybe we'll go out for dinner to celebrate or something with like family members or whatever,
or friends or something.
So that's why I was like, that's if I'd known going to the theatre, I would have picked a different outfit, I would have picked a different coat, but I would have probably packed my makeup as well.
But it all worked out.
But
and there were people at the theatre in just like a t-shirt and shorts, so it's like, you know what, it's pretty
I didn't mind at all,
no. But yes, so we got settled in the room, and that's when I told you we were going to see the Lion King, which was literally like 200 meters away, I think.
Yeah.
The entrance to the like Lyceum, whatever you say, Lyceum Theatre. So we had a very nice short walk to get there. Which was also kind of important because I was aware we were doing, well, we'd just been on 2 or 3 long hikes over the past week, and as well as that, like we'd just been on a walk earlier that day, and then it's a whole surprise of actually we're going into this entirely different place. So I tried to minimize walking and also stressful public transport as much as possible. But I mean, it's London, so you're limited in that. But yeah, so it was nice at least that once we were in the hotel, it's like, right, for the rest of the day, we're walking about 400 meters total, and that's about it. So the rest of it's all sitting down.
And you'd planned as well for us to have like our dinner delivered to our room, for room service, because obviously the day had been so like jam packed. And then we were at this like hotel, and it had just been like non-stop, and obviously we were like a bit time restricted because we had a theatre production to go to. And yeah, but I just really appreciated like those actions, the way that you kind of planned the ease of things for London, like making it so that we had like a hotel on the doorstep of the theatre, and that you'd plan like, oh, like before I'd even like said anything, you were like, we're going to get room service dinner and things like that. And that's like very it very much shows how well you know me. Because a lot of people would assume, oh, you'd want to go out for dinner or something, or maybe you'd want to do this or this, but like it really just shows like how well you think about me and making like me be as like peaceful and calm about things as possible, and also enjoy them to the max without it being like a big deal or like like I'm an inconvenience for wanting things a certain way. But also it's also good for yourself. Like I feel like you probably benefited from that little break as well.
I absolutely did. I again, it's like it was obviously for your benefit as well, but a lot of that I was just like, after all the day we'd had, and also like it had been a lot of driving for me as well, because we'd driven like, I mean, 3 days in the week at that point. I was driven about an hour and a half, just like to and from the Peak District. Some of that was quite stressful, and then driving around Milton Keynes, some of that's also a bit stressful, and the M20, the M1, not the M25. So I was just like, I don't mind having just a dinner in. But then the dinner ended up being a bit stressful because we ordered it at like 4:30, and it was like, oh, it should take about half an hour. And I was like, great, that's fine. It will arrive about 5. We need to leave here about like 6:15. It's all good. 5 comes around, 5:30 comes around. It still hasn't arrived. I'm like, fine, I guess I'll give them a ring. chase it up. So I do. They're like, oh, it'll be coming in about 5 minutes or something like that. And they're like, okay, give it another 10 minutes. It's now like 5:40, and I'm like, well, if it doesn't arrive soon, then we're just gonna have
Not
to
gonna be
cancel
able
it.
to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I call them again, and sod's law, as soon as I call them and like start explaining the issue, we get a knock on the door, and I'm like, oh, sorry, they've just arrived, and then just hang up the phone. Because I didn't want them to just like leave. I knew they probably wouldn't, but it's that thing of like with deliveries, if you don't get to the door soon enough, they might just walk away. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, they do it with the food. I was like, they'll probably just leave it on the floor. But yes, so we let them in, and I awkwardly stood there while they just sorted it all out.
Well, I was in bed.
You were in bed, yeah.
I
That's even more.
because we hadn't worked out the like thermostat, so it was cold in the room. So I'd got, and
Fully
again, I
under the
hadn't
covers.
brought enough clothes, so I just tucked myself under the duvet and was there when they arrived with the food. And I couldn't really do anything, so I just sat there trying to be as like quiet and not moving as possible, so that maybe he wouldn't notice me.
Yeah, just what's this statue doing in the bed?
Yeah.
But yes, so I did finally arrive. We had a burger and chips,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a little beer, and you had a little Pepsi and things.
They come to the podcast for the real
They
details.
do come to the podcast. I'm leading to the point that cost £63.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Which is kind of
we
crazy.
got brownie as well.
We did get a brownie, but yeah, it was £5 for the tray charge, which I'm still not over. But I mean, again, it's London. it's one night, so it's all fine. Yeah, the food was all good once we got it.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah,
wasn't
I
nothing
did.
to write home about. Was it?
I did expect better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like this hotel, like had a very kind of like exterior of posh fanciness. But then like the service and stuff, and like even like the room size and stuff just didn't really quite meet that. But again, that's probably like the Londonization, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it's
that's
like,
what you kind of expect London. And it's not like we're very frequent fancy place visitors. So,
no, but
so
like
it was probably fine for us. But I imagine if like you were expecting something fancy, you'd probably be a bit more miffed.
Yeah, a bit miffed about it. Because I think, I mean, I kind of like was comparing it to where we stayed in Edinburgh, and I felt like that was like way better value for money, that place.
Oh, that place was great.
Because it was very like modernized hotel room. It wasn't big by any means, but it was bigger than it advertised itself to be, I feel like.
Yeah,
but
yeah, like, but it was very fancy. Like, I remember the headboard in Edinburgh had like the thermostat and stuff on it, didn't it? And the lights, like, oh, it was so good.
Stuff. Yeah, so I just felt like, and that was also quite like, I mean, it was an amazing looking building from the outside, but like the view we had from it as well.
Yeah,
like,
it's much
at least
nicer.
one of the first times was like over most of Edinburgh, which was crazy. And this one, it's just like we were on an inside room, so it's got a window, but like it just
more
faced
buildings.
the same building on the other side, I think.
Yeah.
So it was like it's not a great view either. But yeah, it served its job. We were nice and close to the.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the main thing. It wasn't going there specifically for the hotel or for the food or anything. So yeah, so around sort of 6:15, we got ready, headed out to the theatre, and stood around for a while.
Yeah.
Once we got in really quick. There was like no queue because it's like, oh, you have to be in before 6:30. No, but like half the people were in before 6:30, if that. Because
We're
it was
going on so many little tangents.
no, but I'm thinking about it because like so many people arrived like really late.
That's true, they did.
And I was like, that was crazy.
Anyway, we were seeing The Lion King.
We were seeing The Lion King.
I
feel like I said Lion King a few times.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But anyway, we saw The Lion King, which is one that I have like wanted to see for a long time, and I always mock Sammy for having seen it and not seen the movies.
Yes.
And I 100% cried within 5 minutes when all the animals, like the people playing like the animals, came in, and it was absolutely incredible. And so beautiful and so emotional. They really know what they're doing. The actors were just absolutely incredible.
So good. Yeah.
Music was so good, so much humor in it as well. So we had a really lovely evening, just to kind of, and I think it was really nice to like have that time for just us two to kind of celebrate it together.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking with this whole thing is like, I kind of halfway through, well, I think it was about the sort of time we started planning it, was like, we talked about, oh, we'll be going down to Milton Keynes in a month to do various other things that we'd definitely be doing with like your family and probably your friends as well. And I was like, okay, I don't feel too bad about setting up all this expectation of, right, we're going to do all this stuff with your family and friends. Just kidding, it's us two for the whole time. Because I just thought it might be nice. And what I kind of wanted as well is we get to celebrate just together.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to celebrate with everyone else like after the fact. But it's just nice on that day. It was just kind of us two, which is kind of my side of what I wanted, I think. So it's nice to kind of, because that's one thing your sister said to me as well a couple of times, I think, was like, don't forget it's your day as well. So make sure you do things the way that you want as well. Like,
oh, that's good.
so that made me feel better about doing that, because I was like, even if people, as long as like people are aware before the time that like we're not necessarily doing it, I don't think they'd be miffed at the fact that this is what we did, you know?
No, exactly. And you know, like you said, you told the people, like the important people.
Yeah, because that's why I didn't feel too bad not telling Nanny and Grumpy, because we were still going to go and see them.
And
anyway.
we spent more time with them the next day
exactly,
as well.
so it evened out in the end.
And we got to bring them a little surprise of being engaged, which I
Yes,
think they really
yeah.
liked. My nanny very much approves. And it just brought them a little bit of joy, didn't it, as well, which is always really lovely.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to do that. But yeah, so
that's it, really.
That's kind of it. I mean, yeah, it's just the next day we had a pretty nice breakfast as well. The muffins were disappointingly dry. I'll say that.
This is just like
so-
Sammy's review.
Yeah. Gonna get into hotel reviewing now.
They're gonna contact you like, sorry for your experience.
Oh bloody yeah. I hope so. It'd be nice if we got some discount.
Oh my gosh.
But no, that's why we need to build it up. Get more listeners so we can get the Strand Palace to hear my demands. But yeah, so I think after that we just kind of came back and had a nice chill time, really, and that leads us pretty much to today.
Yes, and it's been, I think we're still like, you know, just being really excited and happy with this kind of change. Even though it feels very like natural and kind of expected, it's still very exciting to refer to you as like a fiance.
Yes.
And you know, seeing other people get excited about it as well.
Yeah.
So now the real fun begins of planning
The wedding. I'm sure we'll do an episode of that at some point.
Don't do it. No.
Before.
Luckily we have.
To plan a wedding. No.
Luckily we have an expert in terms of that. My sister and her husband are, well, I don't know if you still call them newlywed. They got married like a year ago.
Newish newlywed.
They know all the things, so we will be relying on them.
Yeah, and they had a really nice wedding, so it's good to have like, what did you do to plan it? Because then we can copy some of the steps that worked. And
but yeah, we don't know even what year we're going to do it in yet, so
no, roughly what month. So just
so,
not which year.
But there's going to be lots of exciting things to come. But before we head off, I suppose the wellbeing segment's going to be a little bit obvious. But what brought you joy in the last week? I mean, it's been a bit of a week, so yeah.
The hot tub.
No, that hot tub was great.
Yeah, we had a very nice hot tub in the Peak District. No, I mean, I'll say the second most obvious one, because I think the obvious one is very obvious.
The proposal.
I'll say it explicitly. But the second one is probably just going on sort of the hikes that we did in the Peak District.
Yeah.
I think both of them that we did around there were just really re-energizing, and I think really centered me before all of the proposal and everything that happened afterwards, because I think I was having some times where I was just like a bit stressed and like, am I trying to do too much with this? Is it going to be too much for you? Like, am I going to be too tired from all the driving and stuff like that? And I think that just really helped me kind of like, I didn't really think much about the proposal while we were there in a good way, not like I don't care. It's more just like, it's not constantly on my mind and I'm trying to plan it. So I was like, everything's already set now. Like nothing, if I think about it now, it's not going to change anything.
No.
I think the only thing I had to do was like check into the hotel, but that was it. So I think that was really nice, and just getting to go and just speak with you while we were going around these walks. I feel like when you're speaking and walking, it's very different from when you're just sitting down and talking. I mean, I know that's what we're doing now, but it's still different type of talking, I think. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the proposal is like the obvious choice. But I will also provide a second one, which I suppose was also quite similar, but I think I just feel really proud of myself for kind of being able to conquer all the big hikes of the Peak District and just the busyness of this last week while also still feeling well. You know, today I was fully expecting before this week that today I would just spend in bed exhausted. But I've actually managed to balance myself really well. I kind of proved myself wrong that I'm capable of a bit more than I kind of thought I could, which is just making me feel very grateful and excited for the future now. especially as the spring equinox arrived yesterday and kind of coming into today. So very much new beginnings, new starts, and I'm really feeling that energy at the moment.
That's very, very nice. But yeah, I think that's also what I was worried about a bit on like the Tuesday. I was like, if we just because we've already done so much and then just loading a bunch more. But I'm glad that, and again, I'm really proud that you were able to be enjoying it and doing as much as you were without being too like overexerted or anything.
Yeah, thank you. And then what's one thing you need to do for yourself or I can do for you to support yourself for the next week?
I think just taking it a bit easy.
Yeah, slowing
Like,
down a bit.
yeah, it's not anything specific. It's like obviously want to do things to like outdoors because the weather's meant to be quite nice next week, and just making improvements to the garden and everything as a whole. But I think in measured amounts, like I wouldn't want to do a crazy amount like this weekend and just kind of come back down to earth after all the good craziness of the past week, really. Like
Yeah.
again, it's one of those where it's a holiday and then you need a holiday to recover from the holiday type situations. But I think just having time to sort of rest and recover together
Yeah,
will be nice.
definitely.
What about you?
Well, it's something we've been speaking about doing is we're kind of looking at signing up for a gym. So hopefully in the next week, that is something we will kind of have a session.
Our first gym session. That can be our next podcast.
Yeah. How did we find the gym?
Panting the whole way through.
Yeah. So I'm just really looking forward to that and just starting that journey, especially like alongside you. I think it's a really healthy and positive choice we're making. And I'm especially after kind of feeling affirmed by our capabilities over this last week. It's making me feel very excited for the next chapter in many, many different ways.
Yeah, because I know that's what we talked about before was like, well, we'll look at the gym based on how we do after all the hiking and stuff. But I think we were definitely both like, yeah, we really want to do this and make that positive change for our life.
We love positive changes.
Exactly.
But we'll leave it there. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our story. If there's any questions or comments you'd like to make, feel free to make them. And otherwise, we hope you have a lovely week and sending you lots of love and warmth.
See you next time.